On a fantastic Monday evening, on a cold Monday evening here in Houston, Texas. It's the Teddy Bear. Welcome to Night Traxx Radio. Today's artist spotlight, gifted actor, songwriter, producer, and also poet. Lord have mercy, the very talented Albe back, of course, with his new sophomore album, Apple Z. Brother, thank you so much for joining us this evening, man. It's been a long time coming.
Oh man, thank you, man. Yeah, it's actually, I know that's a misprint. It's actually my third album.
Your third, oh,
Um, yeah, I know it feels like my sophomore though because of the introduction, and
no.
how I did it. But yeah, it's all good, whatever. But I love the fact that hip hop is ready at this moment to hear music like this, and so I feel good either way.
One of the things I want to touch upon is I want to delve a little deeper. I want to touch upon two things: your spiritual journey and the close relationship that you have with your daughter.
Hmm.
The things that you've experienced in your life going through that spiritual journey, how
Yeah.
has that helped you build a better relationship with your daughter and also bringing a level of peace and also a level of balance in your career?
Um, Wow, I've had a relationship with God. I think before I met her, and the one thing that I have done is I have studied a lot of scripture, whether it was within different religions or even outside. I was really studious when it came to things of God and everyone's interpretation. I became a person that just was searching, but then I started to hear the voice for myself and how God's spoken to me. So I got to learn the voice of God at a young age, and my relationship with God has never wavered in that regard. I so when I met her, on her date of birth, um, we hit it off right away. And and she I sang to her, every night, and I would put jazz on. I would put Miles Davis on, and I would talk to her, and hopefully I would talk to her with what I heard from God, about what she has before her and what her journey, and that's what we are. I feel just like God. In retrospect, um, we're like the pillars in a highway, you know, and we don't really need those things there, but we do, you know. And if we go too far to the left, our parents and our guardians are there, and so I think to answer your question, it would be like the relationship between um, God and Adam, the way I am with my daughter. Our relationship has been like, hey, don't touch the tree. You
Right.
know,
I can definitely relate. A lot of very talented individuals like yourself, they get in this business we call music and they have a tendency to lose who they are. How important is it to you to remain true to who you are? Because you come across in the interviews that I've seen you do, you come across as very being well grounded, very humble, which is very important
praise
to
God.
remain humble
Yeah,
and also keep your sanity at the same time.
yeah, yeah. Um, you know, I once had somebody say, "Hey, when you pray in that prayer at ironically my daughter's birthday, you didn't mention such and such or whatever the case is." And my answer was, I don't pray with other people in mind listening. You know, like my conversation with God has to be in secret, has to be, you know, built in secret and built in a place that's behind closed doors for me to always walk with the confidence of Him. So that morning, every morning, we have to get to that place of opening our eyes and understanding our mission is complete, that we have eternal life, that there is no rush to make something, better or worse than somebody. It's not about that.
Right.
Once you feel complete, you can walk in abundance. So in my family here, when we go through things, we look at each other and we go, "Are you complete? Like, is this conversation complete?"
Right. Yeah.
If it's complete, we hit the ground running. So, do you feel complete? Yeah, you shouldn't come out of prayer until you do. You shouldn't come out the shower until you feel complete.
Having that kind of close relationship, close spiritual relationship with God, how was that impacted your music and, of course, the new album, Apple Z?
Yeah. I think I'm not. Whew. I think the question is also, where does the message of Apple Z is to refresh.
Right.
It's one of those things on the computer where you hit where Steve Jobs created the last redo of our existence, and it's ironic or iconic that there was an apple there in the garden, and that our phone is a tree of knowledge. So when you ask me the correlation between the two, there it is. Apple Z is a moment for us to be able to repent and feel good about our existence. So however I wanted to rap, however I wanted to, whatever I thought the sounds were saying in the conversation I was having with the music, it was pure and it came from a good news place. So I think that's where I correlated. That's why I put it together. But it's all God. It's all whatever He wants. Whatever that moment is for us to for reflect. Like in Psalms, they would say Selah, which means like reflect. You sit back, hold on. I like that. I like lyrics that do that, and that's what I've been bred in. Bars for God. But just bars. I don't look at art as something that we should consume as a spiritual mission. You know what I'm saying? Like my mission is when this podcast is over and I have to call a friend and remind them how great he is or she is, and be there for my family and my community and my culture. My mission is there. My reflection on art and what I do with art isn't necessarily for it's not mission based. It's my conversation, and the world is just eavesdropping on that conversation.
Right. One of the things that I really appreciate about you being an artist, conversation is always important. I think the art of conversation has been lost, be it through social media. In some ways, social media has become somewhat advantageous to promote what you're doing, but I think in other forms, where it's kind of stymied us, the lack of really sitting down and being able to communicate to one another and having that kind of positive energy put out there. And I wanted to ask you about that as far as positive energy. How important is it that you have that energy go out to a lot of people who really love and support your music and support what you're doing in general?
Praise God. I think the conversations have ceased via because it's not just via the internet. It's via the conversation that anything is via.
Right.
I'm sorry about that. That's just force of habit. But like, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? Like me apologizing. That's why I love, Ye sometimes when he does interviews, you see him go, all right, let me get to the next thought. I understand it. I feel like via is our problem. There's too much verses. Um,
Right.
you know, and I don't want to be that person that walks into a room and says, "You're doing wrong." You're doing wrong." You know what I'm saying? I don't really believe in wrong or right as much as I believe in wise and unwise.
Right.
And so, what's the wise decision for your commitment with God? You know, what's the wise decision? What's the wise decision for your commitment with your family? My wise decision was for my community to hear lines that they want to hear, the poetry that I'm able to spew, and for my daughter to be able to rock to it too and listen to it and not have to go, well, what the message is, kind of veering off of, the truth. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Right.
all about that, when it comes to.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I remember you mentioning something to the fact that everyone has their own version of what the truth is to them.
Their relationship with God. Yeah, they're Adam, they're Appleseed, they're Eve, they're Cain and Abel. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
how do you work that? How do you handle it? You know?
I mean, it's so easy to lose yourself if you don't understand who you are and what you are and having a level of integrity in what you're doing. I had an opportunity, which I feel blessed. I had an opportunity to see you do some poetry, and it really touched me because I'm saying, wow, this cat really gets it. He understands. There's different levels of being able to communicate and getting that kind of positive energy out there because we're surrounded by so many negative energy. And it's another way of doing things, of being able to
Well,
communicate to people.
yeah.
Where
Well,
do you,
I guess to fully answer your question before, how do we do it? Um, I think we have to get to a place where we can hold hands. There's something about holding someone's hand. You know, it's a pre-judgment. It's like, you have to let go of so much of what you believe in. What's been going on. Um, and when I say hold hands, I mean like I have to I have to be where you are in order to hold your hand. And
right,
I have to identify with how tall or short you are and what's going through your life, and you have to do the same for me. And I don't think until we get to a place where we actually are available for that, like the movie Us, almost like how you see them at the end all holding hands. I don't
right.
think, I don't think we'll drop the phone long enough for us to feel each other again. So the best way for us to do it is, yeah, the comment section in on the internet is something we could talk about, but I don't even believe those are real people sometimes.
Right.
To be honest. So when we're dealing with, my advice to the community is hold your nephew's hand, hold your niece's hand, hold the people that are alive, that are with you, hold them, touch them, hug them, be something in their life, be that blessing in their day, fill them up, with everything that you got. So then in turn, God will fill your cup back up with everything that you are.
Without question. One of the things I also wanted to compliment you on the role that you portrayed in ATL, man. And then
Oh, yeah, astonishing. Yeah.
you know, you get an opportunity to kind of sit back. And I know for me, I like to dissect a lot of things, but looking back at that role and then having the opportunity to converse with you now, you weren't playing a role.
Uh,
I can see the correlation between that person and who I'm speaking with right now because the type of attitude, the type of the caring that came across from that particular character, it really resonates. Not with me just only speaking with you now, but it also resonates through your music.
mm, uh, I blame Will Smith for that. Um, yeah, yeah. I blame a couple people, but Will Smith told me, he said, there's a bit of me in every role.
Right.
Like you can find me right here, you can find me right there. Now, of course, over the years, I know how to close it, you know. But if you just have your natural reaction, you're gonna have more fun than you've ever had. You know what I'm saying? And him pulling, us individually aside, or like Chris Robinson, who directed all the Big Puns videos. Growing up, I saw him when I was a kid. So when he directed ATL, I think my introduction to the world was a lot more Steph Curry in that aspect, to have been around the directors for so long, you know what I mean, and and for us to have been him communicate me with me like a little brother. So there would be times where Chris Robinson was like, "Yo, Albe, yo, yo, if you mess up this shot, Albe," you know what I'm saying? When he wouldn't do that necessarily to others, I feel, and
Right.
and just because he could, and so when I taking Will's and Chris's lead on that, and then Jason Weaver also, and Jackie Long, of course, we like really, was doing our best to uh, make sure that each line was impacted with what we would have felt like our
Right.
and Jason Weaver is a king at that. His some of his ad libs are what fill up the whole movie. You know,
Right.
um, yeah, it is like we freestyled that part in the diner with. I was a freestyle because I remember seeing a really big fly come at the window. And he said, "All right, say something," and I was like, "Yo." Like the fly, I was going on about the flies. It flies are huge, right? I was like, why
Uh-huh.
are there so many flies out here? And then he cut,
Right.
and that was all off the rip. And then
Uh-huh.
I knew I call you son because you shine like one. Only my hip hop historians know where that's from. And
That's that NYC terminology, brother. I understand.
so I was at the time I was a New York kid in Atlanta, and I played a New
Uh-huh.
York kid a New York kid that was in Atlanta. So it wasn't really like I was a 1942 war hero. However,
Right.
however, I did then focus on the art of studying it, and studying Meisner for about 2 years, and then studying Ivana Chubbuck's classes and her books, and having mentors like Joe Morgan, and just other actors who just little brothered me, and kind of gave me some of the gems. Even Evan Ross, his elite kind of level of acting, we spar with each other. So since then, I've grown in a different form of acting that I feel like even when Black Thought trusted me to be workshop with his Broadway play, Black No More, which is on Broadway now. When I was there, he entrusted my acting ability as well as my rapping ability to kind of work with the play people. And I have been on Broadway before with HBO's Def Poetry, and been, I've always, the stage means something to me. It matters. So I didn't want to just be, no disrespect, but round kid number three, or like
Right.
me Steele from Juice. No disrespect, that's my man. But I'm just like nah. There's something bigger with so purposeful when it comes to the arts, that has nothing to do with this time. And
Right.
quality, it has nothing to do with now. The arts is for way after you're gone. And so I want to add the quality. So when it came to acting, I really took it seriously afterwards. But when it comes to before that, I was more of a New Eurekan poet, and a deaf poet.
You wear so many different hats, and I wanted to ask you because I know a lot of our listeners had posed this question. Have you thought about actually doing some directing, doing some work behind the scenes, and actually directing either a television show or possibly directing a major motion picture?
Yeah, that's your phone?
No, that's not mine.
That's your phone?
It might be in my studio somewhere in the bags, but we're good.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. As a director, I feel like we're gonna have to wait for the ringer to. No, I do really feel like that. I've always been in that mode because when you write something, you see it.
Right.
You see it, man. And Chris Robinson, had me writing treatments for music videos. So he would pay me, like, and throw me a couple $100 to help write treatments or spark treatment. And he would take like there was a Nas treatment, and you see it in your brain and how it should be. Um, and you want that vision to come out indirectly. I don't know if that's for every writer,
Right.
but I have it, and so it became easy. I would always do short films. I'm all around the New York City shooting. Everybody knows me for that. When the 5Ds had first came out, like the Canons, we were out there shooting like short stories, and we were shooting 1 minute shows. I was a part of the group Creative Control with Cootie and Chike, who directed the movie Genius about Ye, and like it was always around me. I'm even being in the NYU scene, like having birthed all of those ideas of the language of film. I love it. So I put it all into what I do with my daughter sometimes.
Okay.
Like all the editing and all that. She gets all of that. Like all of her little videos be hard, all my little ex conversations and all. Baby boom, yo, I'm trying to get this. He's like, for what? It's for Katie. It's for Katie. But I'm just trying to get this edit right. He's like, yo, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, for sure. For sure.
Man.
There's Chris Robinson can tell you, I've asked him advice on something I did for my daughter. Like I love it. So I know. We are actor gang. My man Jackie Long, who was in the movie with me. I've been working with him for a while on a lot of great things, including cartoons and things of that nature. So we've been, from the pen to behind the lens. I'm available for that.
Absolutely. I love the relationship that you have with your daughter, being a father of a 20-year-old. Lord have mercy. It's a beautiful thing because you get a perspective of what they see, being able to use a lens to get their vision of what they see and how they look at life. What are some of the things that you've set down for yourself as far as goals for the wow, we're less than not even a month away from going into 2023. What are some of the things that you like to do or accomplish in the new year?
Man, right now, I've just been working with my daughter's school and making sure that is going great. Her education matters to me, especially at this sponge age,
Right.
And I feel like at 10, it's one of those things where if you give it the time and you give it the creativity, it's gonna come back in such a beautiful way.
Right.
So that's important to me. My skill level too has upped the game in very various forms. Like lyrically, I feel like I'm doing even with things I've never thought I'd do. Man, listen, like I want everyone that listens to be able to always be like, oh man, I have no idea what he's gonna say next, but I know if I listen to it, I'll be able to go, oh, that's what he meant.
Man.
I like the little treasure in treasures, in pregnant lines as we call them. So that has been upping its ante. And so like I love it. I love it. I love the craft is moving. And I love what's happening with uh, growing food. I've been growing a lot more food. Shout out to my man Rylan Angel Heart. A lot of people don't know that the soil and our soil is really important. And so my knowledge of that going into this year, I have my daughter again, myself.
Right.
and my family, we're trying to grow as much as we can and have our hands in our food and in our in our healing. So we're all about that. Yeah, and uh, and getting ready for Yay 24. You
There
know,
you go.
yeah,
There you go.
you
And
see
for
what happens there. Yeah,
absolutely.
praise God.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for those who are tuning in late, shame on you. But the teddy bear does forgive you. We're being joined by the super talented I'll be back. And of course, his new album, Apple Z, is available as we speak. And to get all the latest updates, make sure you catch up with him on Instagram. That's at Instagram.com/. I'll be back. It's a beautiful thing. Brother, first of all, I know I can't let you go. Two things I got to ask you. Earlier, you
Yeah.
mentioned that you were playing some Miles Davis for your daughter. Do you remember exactly what Miles Davis album you were
Oh,
playing?
what do you mean what?
Huh?
What not? You know? Um, and I want to stress this. First of all, I want to say that's a beautiful thing that your daughter is 20. I can't wait. Well, I can wait, but I can't wait to get to that space of just like watching movies with her and be able to talk to her about other things, about like just life in general, like and having those moments where, and when they're happening now, of course, and they always happen, but having those moments where we you said you told her what to do and she learned it, and those
Right.
those ones and twos, those John Stockton to Carmelo, those 1-2 moments are some of the greatest moments of my life. But I will say that yeah, it was more of a training as well. I had the mother of my child, as well as myself, when I had her, because I was a single father for the majority of her life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So when I would have her, we all had an eye, in it to play jazz music, um, to play kind of blue, to play etches of Spain, to sketches of Spain, to play Theo, a monk, to play uh, you know we wanted to play that as much as we can when she was sleeping every time.
Right. Right.
It was a sleeping. Anytime she was sleeping, we would play it, especially Miles, because Miles has a way of stretching thoughts and like rhythm. It doesn't land where you think it should land, but it lands so perfectly, right?
Makes people think. You
And,
really have to think.
and so, as a baby, I would say, as a baby and as an infant, I tell every parent to do this. I tell every parent to do this. As a baby and an infant, as you play Miles, you tell that baby, there's a conversation happening with the sounds. Tell me the conversation when you wake up.
Mm.
And what happens is by 2 years old, when it's time for nap time, we would just play Miles Davis and Katie would just wow. You know what I'm saying? Right? It would just be, it would just, we never had a problem with nap time. We would say, doo-doo, doo-doo,
Oh man, it's a
and she
beautiful
knows
thing.
Billy. She knows Billie Holiday. She knows off cuff. She knows what Miles' song would be, by name as well. Her
Right.
my the my father, the man that mentored me and took me in and adopted me, the founder of the Last Poets, Abiodun Oyewole, would always you know I always had her around him, so she knows that he knew people, So she would study uh, Mahalia Jackson or anything black and white as a 6 and a 7 and 8 year old. She would
Mm-hmm.
listen to that because she knew Pop Pop was like that could have been Pop Pop's friend or
Right.
something. You know, so she feels like Pop Pop was Hove, you know what I'm saying? And like
Right. Right.
and Nikki Giovanni and Sonia Sanchez was like, it really was like that actually. So, but just the idea for her to grab just instrumentals and symphonies as a relaxing thing and to listen to the sounds as conversation, it helped me. I promise you, parents, it would help you tremendously because they're sleeping for 12 hours, well, 9 hours a day. So if you have jazz going on throughout that 9 hours, you're talking to a different human when they wake up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I definitely understand. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for not only having such a positive energy and making sure that you get that energy out there. Of course, again, family, be sure to get the new album, Apple Z, available
Apple
as we
Z.
speak. Get Apple Z. Definitely have to do that. I can't wait to see what you have in store for us in 2023. And I want to thank you for allowing us in your world and sharing so much of yourself with us. Whatever you need, please do not hesitate to let us know. Much continued success, much continued blessings to you, my brother. And whatever you need, don't hesitate to let the teddy bear know, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Shouts to my people. Shouts to Dom. Shouts to Justin Rains and Davon, who also produced on the album. They did such an amazing job. Shouts to Captain is Cool, who's on that Heaven song. We got a project that we're doing. Shouts to Katie, who's on the album. Abia Dune, who's on the album. And shouts to there was a Queenie, was Akasha. There was so many blessings that I had of stories that will come to me. Right, they would just come to my in my path and my journey, and we would make these beautiful paintings, and we called it Apple Z. It was time for a refresh in our lives, and we made it. So I really appreciate you allowing me on the show to, and I'll definitely come again, man. When the next joint, the next project. It's funny.
Oh,
It's funny. Apple Z is on SoundCloud. You can listen to it
yes.
on SoundCloud, and that's the place you can listen to, because I don't sell my music, right? And I've never sold my music. I've been making music. I was on the radio even 10, 13, 11 years ago, and I always thought of my art as something that I can own and consume, but I don't necessarily have to be thirsty to sell it, right? So that's
Right.
my concept. I can
Okay.
take it somewhere else. But I just want to say that on YouTube, we have a performance called the Not So Live Show. And
Okay.
it's like a comedian's HBO special, but
Okay.
for a poet. And that's what we did to Apple Z. So Apple Z can be viewed. Every song has a video because it's a live performance, almost like John Leguizamo meets Nas. You know?
Okay.
You feel me?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Well, you heard it here first, family. You can also listen to the entire album, of course, on SoundCloud. You can definitely let your ears get fed with some therapeutic music, some awakening music, the modern day Picasso. Lord have mercy.
You know what I'm saying?
I'll
Man,
be
I'm painting pictures.
there
I just wrote this one rap the other day where it was like walking to heaven. I had to read the room. I ain't see the cool. I seen the few earthlings. They were evil too. The maximum of God's face. You gonna see it's you. The media had you many skewed. I heard lying. Your appetite was many mouses. You spent life starving, skipping food the ground gives, chasing blouses, change your route when you're the map, you're a legend, treasure hardships. You don't remember? You only went down there as if you treasure hardships. I said, did the metamorph it? Were we better off it? I am set the calmness and said, take him to the office. Pun's been waiting for all this.
you.
It's always like an imagery based poetry kind of thing. But, praise God, man. Thank you so much
Absolutely.
for having me.
Absolutely. Brother, thank you so much for joining us. And whatever you need, be sure to let us know, man. Much continued love and much continued success to you. All right.
Yeah, thank you, man. Shouts to Dave as well. Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right, man. The super talented. I'll be back here in the zone of Night Tracks Radio. My goodness. Family, if you want to see the interview in its entirety, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's at Night Tracks with 2 X's. Night Tracks Music. Okay. That's on YouTube. Night Tracks Music Podcast. That's on YouTube. That's our YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe, and also be sure to follow us on TikTok. It's at TikTok at Night Traxx Radio. Also on Instagram, LOTL Radio, The Comfort Zone. And also, last but not least, be sure to subscribe and follow us. Follow us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/LOTL Radio, The Zone. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and tuning out all the negativity. It's your humble host, Mr. Rated Extraordinaire, the Teddy Bear. I want everyone to have a wonderful Monday evening. Be safe, be sound, and as always, keep it soulful here on Night Traxx Radio.